Good morning, everyone. This is Izabela Hamilton with Rank Bell, and I have with me today the one and only Rob Oliver, the Genius brand genius, right? You are the face and everything behind the Genius brand. I want to thank you so much for being with me this morning. I know you probably had to move so many things around to be here today for us, and I know there's a lot of people very, very excited to hear you speak. So why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and I always love to, talk e-commerce, Amazon, brand building, all that stuff. So for me, it's a good way to start the week and I'm looking forward to it.
I love that. I know it's always good to have like a motivation start of the week. So having you here today will definitely motivate me throughout the week. And I was telling you before we got on, I've been like binge watching all your YouTube videos. So for those who don't know Rob yet, please feel free to look him up on YouTube because he has this amazing videos about not only working out but about brand building and positivity and yoga and meditation and everything else, right? Like how do you first of all how do you have the time to do everything? And you have a very tiny daughter as well, so I think a lot of people would be interested to find out how do you manage to do everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the answer is I don't, to be totally honest. And I don't know if this is like how most people operate, but I found this about myself. I have like one of two modes. And what that means is like if I'm in so when I was creating a lot of that content, some of the workout stuff and whatnot, that was kind of my sole focus, right? Like creating content and being being active on social media and working out and taking care of yourself, that can really transition to a full-time like thing. And I think where I don't know if this is normal, like I am extremely obsessive. And like if I commit to something, whether that be like the whole I was doing this thing, building this idea of like anti-fragile training, that consumes me. And it's every bit of what I do. And I'll get incredibly routine orientated. And it doesn't mean there's no work and like that was the work, right? And then on the other side, like creating a brand or like building Genius, I would look at a computer for 100 hours a week, like not look away. And that's just this obsession I have with whatever it is I'm engaged in. And I really only have like those are two modes for me, right? And it's an ongoing process because now I have a daughter and I have a family, and always making sure, regardless of the mode I'm in, like carving out their time is very important. So it's been an ongoing process. It is what it is, but yeah, for anyone who looks and thinks like, oh, I do yoga and meditate an hour a day and lift weights for 2 hours and then still spend all this time on the business, it's really one or the other, and it comes in waves because there's just not enough hours in the day to do it all. Doesn't mean you don't build the business the right way, right, and free your time up, but yeah, that's life.
So did the Genius brand come before you working out, or the working out brought you to create this like amazing supplement brand? How did that idea came about?
Yeah, it was more that I was I played basketball in college. I've had this like obsessive thing for a very long time. So in college, like I was the guy. Like people came to me for training. My teammates, like I'd be the one putting us through lift sessions, and I was just really obsessed with performance. Right, I kind of turned myself into an athlete. Probably don't have the best genetics, but understood. Yeah, I was just willing to spend a lot of time figuring out most effective training methods and all that. So I guess that's like my furthest background of like I guess being in shape or fitness or whatever you want to call it. And ultimately that led to Genius, although much later down the road.
When did you create Genius?
It was like 2015.
And did you have other friends before that, or was this like your biggest creation?
Yeah, and I had a couple other brands, but this was by far the biggest one. I actually started consulting for companies around 2014. I was really passionate about supplements and just kind of, again, like how it tied to training. And I didn't really know much about Amazon at the time, but I found out that if you could get a hold of these brands, like these bigger supplement brands, like Hit Supplements was my first one. They were really big on bodybuilding.com. And I found out if you could just get them up on Amazon, like you didn't have to know what you were doing, but if you could just get them selling on Amazon, you would make money. So that's kind of how I started, just figuring out how to set products up, and yeah, that was the beginning.
That's amazing. I know a lot of sellers that I talk to, the ones that have started a long time ago, they kind of have similar stories. You know, they were just trying out Amazon, and then they put the product up, and boom, they would have like this major success. But with a supplement brand, I know for a fact that is definitely harder than probably any other product in any other niche. And how did you continue to stay successful? You have like close to 30 products now, maybe more or less, about, I think.
Yeah. We have a lot, something like that. And then I mean, I'm not as good as like I don't do all the crazy like ninja stuff, right? Like I think there's sellers who can get in there and like come out with a generic, whatever it might be, right? Like vitamin C or immune support. Like those are all really big. They grab a stock formula, they know some magic Amazon levers to pull, and they like can sell a bunch of product. I think what we had going for us, and which I would really encourage anyone starting out today, is the power of brand. Like there's a real story behind all of the products. Like every single one is a very unique formulation that comes together for a specific purpose. There's a whole brand identity of like why anyone would want to use Genius to begin with. And that's not to say like I don't understand all the functions of Amazon, right? I think I have a very good understanding, but I think building a meaningful brand, I truly believe, is what has carried us to where we are. Like we just launched Genius Greens, right? And it's not just another greens formula thrown on there. It took us a year because we went through all the USDA certifications. We got vegan certified. It's not a complex formula, but it's the only one that like has these specific doses of meaningful ingredients. And then we added a couple mushrooms as well for like brain health. So, each one has a unique spin, and I think there's a story on it versus just, I think a lot of sellers will like jump on helium and just look for like a search opportunity and be like, oh, this is what I'm going to make. I think I can sell a bunch of vitamin C. Whereas we really focused on creating a brand and there being a real story behind that brand. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely. And I feel like a lot of people miss that when they first come to sell, because they are looking at what sells, but they don't really understand the passion behind it. Because if you don't have the passion for it, eventually it will die off. If it's just about the money or about the search volume and not really putting any effort behind creating this brand, a lot of them fail. So, and I think a lot of people are not even going into supplements these days because of what you just mentioned, because they're maybe they're just looking for a quick buck and they're not really looking to create a brand. And what I noticed from working with thousands of sellers is that the ones that are very successful are the ones that created a brand behind it and created some type of meaning behind their products. Like your products are just so fantastic, and a lot of them are bestsellers. And I was actually going to ask you about the Genius Consciousness and the mushrooms. Like, what was the idea behind it? And what made you go into nootropics rather than just staying with like your regular generic supplements?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, right? Because we're really known for nootropics nowadays. So if you went back to the beginning of the brand, you'd probably think like, oh, we're a nootropic brand. And that wasn't the case. And it seems like a no-brainer, right? Like Genius, nootropics, like it just, but we didn't do one for a long time. And the reason was this, with consciousness specifically. I didn't see any ingredient on the market where I wasn't capable at the time in 2016 of bringing a product to life that was an effective natural nootropic. I think when people think nootropic, they think limitless pill, They think, a lot of people think Adderall, right? They think prescription drugs. And obviously there's the negative side effects of that. I did a whole YouTube video on it. But the point is, people want to really feel something. They want to feel their focus snap into to place, and it can't be synthetic. It can't be dangerous. So I held off on creating a nootropic forever because I didn't feel like we could deliver on the specific purpose. And then my friends at Compound Solutions, they do a lot of branded ingredients. They came out with this new ingredient called dynamine, which was basically like a harder hitting natural stimulant that didn't spike blood pressure. And when I got experimenting and formulating with this thing, I was like, oh, this is our answer. This is our answer. And basically put together this like super formula, consciousness, and dynamine was like kind of the staple, right? That was your immediate feel good spike that would lock you in, but it was still natural. There weren't any side effects. And yeah, that's kind of where that product came to be.
I love that, because when I was looking at it, that's exactly what I was thinking. Limitless. It's literally my favorite movie in the world.
It's a cool idea, right? Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. But I love that every single one of your products has so much like history behind. Like, you really wanted this product to like suit you first, and then be able to go out into the world to everyone else. I think it's I mean,
that's why we made it. Well, that's how every single product was made. It was just something I wanted to take, and then we fill in the search issues after that, right? Like, we'll make the product, we'll make the best product possible, and then we'll figure out the strategy. So that's how I did it.
Yeah, I love that. So with Genius Brand, are you planning to like bring more products? Is there anything in works right now that's coming, or where are you with this brand right now?
Yeah, no, for sure. We've got, we put a lot more effort at this point into, because we have a good base, right? We have a good mix of products, and it's not about just launching anymore for us. We're spending a lot more time on the research. We're spending a lot more time on, the answer is yes. We have a couple of things lined up for 2021 that I feel will do really well. But we're not there yet. We need to solidify the research a little bit more. Find the right sourcing partners. Like, there's a lot of things that are going into it, but it'll be less launches and much more quality, and much more of a story behind what it is we're doing. And I do think we're set to be a leader in a pretty cool new space. But it takes time, and we got to do it right.
Yeah, and how do you launch products in this time of COVID? And because I think a lot of people are kind of hesitant, like they don't know if they should even launch something. And this is not even talking about supplements, just really any product right now. I feel like a lot of sellers are just like afraid to go in because of the limits. And what is one thing that you would do right now that would help?
Oh, the limit? No, the limits are a killer. Like, they just are. Because I'm of the school that you need to be.
So my kid is like trying to get in the camera. I apologize. Ezekiel, please. He's like getting ready to go to school, and he's like right here. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. You know how it is with kids.
I do.
He really wanted to. I kept seeing him in my shot. I'm like, what is my kid doing here? I apologize. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess just to sum that up, right, in a very broad sense, it's hard right now with the limits, and I don't like, Amazon's algorithm has gotten so advanced and so good. I don't think there's a lot of magic tricks, right? I think it's about coming out with a good product and maintaining a set amount of velocity for a prolonged period. I think you have some great options for sellers, like really great. I think that needs to be a piece of everyone's kind of Kickstarter, right? You have to get the machine going. I've been working on some kind of unique ideas that honestly sellers can probably use, but it's all experimental, right? It's all kind of trying to find out what that right strategy is, find a meaningful customer base, get them on subscribe and save. So you can't do the traditional old ways right now, especially with those low inventory limits. But it doesn't mean you can't launch, if that makes sense. It's just different right now. It's very different.
Right. But it's still very workable, right? Like you would recommend somebody like start something and launch and now wait. Because I feel like especially now during COVID, even though, things got a little tighter with Amazon, people are buying more than ever.
There's more shoppers, more eyeballs, more demand than ever before. You're absolutely right. Like the searches are through the roof. So yeah, it might be hard right now, but the reality is it's always been unique challenges. It always has been. And that's why I said, if you have to have the fortitude, you have to stick to it. And you have to have like something you believe in and can stand behind. But like the inventory limits are just not that much different than some other challenge in the past, right? You just have to adapt and overcome. It's really like, that's kind of over the 5 or 6 years I've been doing Amazon. It's just been a lot of adapting and overcoming. And sometimes you win, a lot of the time you don't. But again, with that size of the pie and that many eyeballs, you only need a couple wins.
Right. Have your sales increased tremendously since COVID, since you're doing a supplement brand and people, I think they're into more like health mind right now. They want to get healthy.
Yeah, we've been about even because, we had some of our workout products, like we have a pre-workout and, those really, really went down because the gyms are closed and all that stuff. But like our mushrooms and some of the other, the brain ones, those went way up. But net, it ended up kind of, about even. And now we're up a little bit, but not, I've got buddies who sell like echinacea and some of that stuff, and they're 10x their sales, right? So it's all pretty category dependent. But we took a little hit with the workout stuff.
Okay. Do you sell some apparel as well, right?
Not in like meaningful capacity. It's more of like an ambassador thing, a social media thing on our website. Yeah. So a little bit, but not. Yeah.
Your social media looks very good too. Do you have like a strategy for somebody that's starting out that you can just follow? Like I do this, and I know it will result in this, or it goes case by case. How do you go about launching a product?
Sorry, I got slightly distracted there. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so for a lot of people, I think they're interested to find out how you would launch your product. Like, do you follow an SOP? Or are you very specific in how you launch your products, or it's just case by case?
Yeah, no, we very much have so think about it this way, right? There's a playbook with lever X, Y, Z, F, whatever, and pieces always get subbed and stripped out. So it's a lot of tinkering. So there might be a playbook with like 10 items and we don't have a successful launch or something doesn't go right. Well, we rip out item B, item C, and add in rank bell or you know what I mean? So we do follow a very clear strategy, and it's usually it's at least a month period, right? Everyone talks about that honeymoon on Amazon where you got to build some hype, build some demand. We have good asset lists like emails and ManyChat and all that. But the answer is, yeah, there is a set, formula we try to follow, a playbook, but it is always changing because Amazon's always changing.
Right. Yeah, I figured that much. You just seem to do so well with almost every single product that you launch. So I'm sure people are very curious to know, like, how do you make one product so successful? But I think what I would want to know if I were to sell supplements is like, are there any mistakes that you've done throughout your career that you wish you hadn't done? And I know a lot of people obviously learn from their mistakes, but is there something particular that you wish you hadn't gone through?
Oh God, so many things. Where do I start? You really, you live and you learn, right? And I say the adapting piece. So like a good example, back in, what was it? I think it was 2016, October 2016 when this happened, where they changed the rules because you used to be able to do, you could just create a bunch of coupon codes and give them out to like I Love Review or whatever. And this was all within the terms of service. And they would give out, extreme amounts of product and you'd get a ton of reviews. And first they changed it so they were no longer verified purchase, and then they just stripped all of the reviews. So I remember I had products with like 1,500 reviews, which was a ton at the time, and then I woke up and it was like 300, right? So they just totally and all that past effort was more or less wasted. So there's been instances of that, right? There's been instances of rule changes but in hindsight, looking back, it's like, you know what? Doing things, I think the name of the game in today's world is like just driving authentic, meaningful customer acquisition on their platform. And I think that is what, they'll reward you with. I think that's what it will help, activate all their rankings and all of that stuff by just, like driving off Amazon traffic, right? If you're driving Facebook ads of your product and, sending people to Amazon that maybe weren't Amazon customers or whatever it might be, they'll tend to reward you for that. So I think putting together a multifaceted playbook with the fundamental idea of maintaining authenticity kind of in your core strategies, that's the long-term meaningful way of doing business and partnering with Amazon.
That's fantastic. Do you have do you reuse your list, like when you have a new product? Is that working very well for you? How would you, I guess what I'm trying to say is, a lot of people tend to skip that step, which I think is very important. For a lot of sellers, they'll come to RankBell because, we have the community, but I always encourage sellers to create their own community because I think that's very important when you continue launching products. So has that been successful for you, having your own list, I guess, of buyers?
So so let me clarify real quick. There's like community, which could be like a Facebook or ambassador group of like a couple hundred people. And then there's like email lists, which could be, 50,000, 100,000 people. Which one are you more?
I guess both. I guess both. I would always suggest the seller starts their own, whether community or an email list, if possible, both. But I guess, either one you want to talk about that you feel like it has really created an impact and it has really helped drive your sales, especially for brand new products there are in the honeymoon period, let's say.
Yeah. I think the community thing has gotten way tougher because you can build like a genuine, like the way Amazon will look at it, right? If you have 20 products and those, this well, you have 20 products and you have a bunch of people reviewing those products, like in a set community, well, it doesn't do anything for Amazon, right? It's like, oh, okay, clearly these are, crappy reviewers. They won't carry any weight. Like that's a thing. And, like that used to be like a really fundamental strategy, I think, for everybody, build these like review groups or whatever, and try to use that as launching. And I don't see those as valuable anymore on the brand side. I just don't. Like, do they have a place? Yeah, maybe, right? But I think only more so if it's like really quality users. Like if you have micro influencers and they have dual purpose, I think that's way more valuable versus just like a group you have for reviews or something like that, right? I think that day and age is come and gone. On the other side, I think if you have a massive email list, you can totally use that as a weapon, right? Especially if it's past buyers. You'd be surprised at the conversions you can get on a launch if you blast it out to 50,000 people, right? You only need a couple % conversion to make a meaningful impact on the launch.
How would you go about creating an email list for somebody that has no idea how to do that?
Yeah. Through your website, right? Like I think that's a good way to do it. Social media channels. Really, anytime you engage with the customer, you want to make them, you want to get their information to be able to retarget them. So any way you can think kind of outside of the box on that front and just acquire emails, you have to make it like a fundamental, desire.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about TikTok? Have you guys ever used that? And do you feel like that's a useful?
You're making me feel old all of a sudden. I think TikTok is super interesting. We've been experimenting a little bit, but I don't I don't have the answers on that one yet. And I go on there for like 2 minutes, and you know, you open the phone and it's just like, whoa. It's a little overwhelming. So is there a play there? I think so. I don't know. Do you know? You got any, what was your take on TikTok?
So my thing with TikTok is the influencers are 10, 20 times cheaper than it would be on Instagram. And there's definitely a lot of eyes. Granted, these eyes are definitely younger than what you would probably sell to, but I think there's definitely an angle there that you could use. You know, I would definitely suggest to somebody just starting out, and any different products too, because all these influencers, like I tried one thing, and it only cost like $50 or $100 for something that would cost maybe 5,000 or so on Instagram. So I think
Oh, wow.
there's definitely an opportunity there. But again, just like you said, you go there and it's just like you have a headache because everything just keeps rolling. And it's like, but a lot of these people have followers. So just like with YouTube channel, just like with Instagram, they'll get a notification. This person posted a new video. And I've seen actually, you know, quite impressive results. But again, you know, TikTok is so unpredictable. Like, you know, for the longest they said that it was going to go away. Now it's still here, but supposedly people cannot create new accounts. So it's all this, you know, it's not really secure, but I think for the time being, it would definitely be something that, you know, I would recommend somebody to try. I think it's amazing trying really anything. And just like you said, Amazon really
Yeah, you have to.
its external traffic. So why not, if you have all these tools? And I would even utilize platforms such as like Twitch. I don't know if you do that. You know, they have huge influencers there, you know, but really anywhere. And of course everybody knows Facebook and Instagram still works extremely well. I'm sure you know this, but why not utilize all of this? And like you said, create a website, try to create a strong email list, and create a brand. Because I think once you have that brand, that's when people are like, okay, I can get behind something. If you just create a, you know, just a regular product, you throw it on Amazon with the hopes that people will buy it because of the search volume, you may get the sales, you know, for a while. But if you don't have anything that people can like root behind, it may not last that long. And I think that's why, you know, a Genius brand and brands like Genius will always be there, because it's not only about the product anymore. Like, people resonate with them, just like they resonate with Nike or Adidas or all these other brands. Like, they will forever use them. For me, if I like a brand, or even let's say a pair of pants or leggings or whatever, I will forever buy from that company the same product in like a million different colors. And very rarely would I be distracted from that. So that is definitely the power of branding, which I think you really nailed it at Genius.
Well, you think about it, right? If you just think about it super long term, Costco or Amazon, they can come out with any product, like really any product. So if you're playing like the commodities game, they have the sheer scale and buying power to just crush you, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to come out with a creatine cheaper than Amazon or Costco or Walmart or any of those. But what does set consumer brands apart is the actual brand, like the power of the messaging, and, you know, how do you communicate with the consumer? What makes them identify with what it is you're doing? And that's where you'll start to see too, just on a pure like tactical piece of it, subscribe and save, right? Like, I think we have tremendous subscribe and save numbers, and that's because there's people that have really bought in and want to be Team Genius. And then, yeah, to your point, tying that on kind of a omni-channel, and not omni-channel in terms of retail, but omni social media channel approach is super important, right? We put a lot of effort on Instagram. We put a lot of effort on Facebook. Everyone communicating with customers knows to speak in a specific way. And, you know, I think that's how you can create something meaningful and lasting.
Yeah. How big is your team at Genius, by the way?
It's down to like 9 people now. I think at one point we had like 14 or 15. And, yeah, like we're pulling back on like our retail efforts and some of the other pieces. So yeah, it's like 9 people right now.
Did you started this by yourself, or you had partners?
Yeah, I started it myself, and then very early on, I had two really close friends of mine come on, pretty much as partners, or as partners, and you know, a lot of sweat equity involved with that, and you know, they helped make it what it is today for sure.
What made you pick them? Like, what is the driving force behind hiring somebody? What kind of, did you see some potential, or were there just some friends, or how did you make this decision?
Synergy and intelligence. And I think whenever hiring, intelligence is at like the top of that list. I think synergy is important, but just intelligence and competence is really, really important. Like one of my, you know, he was a like probably best friend, but you know, attorney, just whiz with numbers, really good on the operational front. Probably just one of the smartest guys I know. And you know, he came on board. It was a no brainer.
Do you feel like hiring the right person can really make your brand successful, or do you feel like you could have just done this by yourself? Or
I don't think I could have done it by myself.
I see. You are a very smart guy. I'm always curious about the hiring process and what makes something so successful. Like, it's obviously the power of the mind, and when you have more than one brilliant mind, I think magical things can happen for sure.
I think yeah, exactly. There's a compounding effect. Like I think I could make a good living and live nice selling products on Amazon. You know, I don't think I'd build a 8-figure brand or whatever it is by myself.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people, when they want to start a brand or any kind of business, they have these doubts about themselves, and we go through this a lot. Like I go through it. I don't think it's something you can avoid, but I'm just very curious. Like, how do you deal with that? Because you've obviously created something so unbelievable, and you are also human. So my question is, like, how do you deal with this thoughts of doubt, or maybe imposter
Yeah.
syndrome and all of that?
Yeah. You know, I don't know if imposter syndrome. I think we like to make up words as like people and create these ideas. I think like the antidote to that idea though is just like none of it's all that serious at the end of the day. Like none of this, and trying to keep some level of perspective on like, I've done well. There's people that have done way better, and there's people that have done worse. And then just not taking any of it all that seriously either, I think is really important. I know it's kind of like a weird answer and probably not, like a lot of people that'll just be a miss, but that's my thing. Like we can't take ourselves all that seriously. We're just kind of a blip of dust here anyway in the long term.
Yeah, but I see, you are also very big in working out and practicing yoga and mindfulness and all of this. How does all this tie in with being a successful entrepreneur? And do you feel like it helps?
I think it helps. I'm coming to realize that everyone has different personality structures, and there's some of those people that are extremely even keel and they can apply that kind of in their day to day. And then there's people like me that tend to be a little more high strung and a little more bouncy, if you will. So just I found some of those practices like meditation and yoga they help offset some of the negative quality traits, if that makes sense, right? Because it's really easy to get super emotionally attached to your business, and if your numbers go up or down, it's like just this wild roller coaster of emotion, and it's not really sustainable over a decade. So the offline things, the yoga, meditation, those have been really good tools for me to help dissociate the business with like this idea of self, if that makes sense, right? Like I don't let it be my identity.
I love that. Yeah,
Despite it being my social media identity, right?
yeah,
But yeah.
It's interesting because when I meet people, I always look for what makes them unique and what makes them who they are. And what I find a lot of times is that a lot of the successful people that I meet, they all have this almost same characteristics. They not necessarily that they practice yoga or meditation, but they do have this like almost uniqueness about them, knowing that they will be successful no matter what. So as I said, we all have the doubts, and we all, just because we're human, and whether it's our whatever is going on, our chemical body or whatnot. But I think we all struggle with some of the same issues. But the ones that are very successful, I find that they have the similarities. Like, they believe that they could achieve things. Like, even if something really bad happened, or like their account got suspended or something, they will come back out of it saying, I know what I have to do, and these are the steps, and it will be okay. And other people will be like, oh my God, this is devastating. Amazon hates me. I will never sell on Amazon again. And I always see these two differences, and always the ones that are, they have that positive attitude are the ones that are always winning, always more successful, and always achieving. And especially that I work with, sellers over the past 6 years, I can see some of them where they were and where they are now. And it just blows my mind how, that positive thinking actually helps someone. And I think people, tend to forget this part a little bit, and they just focus on the grind, they focus on this, but they forget to be like mindful and positive and appreciative on that. And I know you are. I think you're pretty big on like positive thinking. And can you a few words?
I don't believe in positive thinking.
What
I didn't want to blow that up.
When I say positive thinking, I'm saying more of like you can visualize your success and work towards that, rather than always saying, this is not for me, I can't do it.
It's tough. I've gone back and forth on this a lot. I think actually a good way to be, because there's some studies on like positive thinking, but there's also survivorship bias, right? So for all the people you've talked to that have made it, sure, they share these traits, but it's called like the graveyard effect or something, or the sunken ship fallacy, I believe. There's a lot of sailors out there who shared the exact same traits as the sailors who made it to the New World, but you never heard from them because they're at the bottom of the ocean. And that's a real thing. Like, and I don't mean to be doom and gloom, no. But I do think because it's like a thing in the yoga community sometimes. It's a thing everywhere, but there's like toxic positivity almost, where you're just blinded by, you just keep saying the right things over and over and over again. And if you're hemorrhaging money, maybe it doesn't make sense to double or triple down, right? Maybe it doesn't make sense to keep throwing money at a losing idea. Like there's a sunk cost fallacy. So I'll back that up. And I think the way to try to approach things is, and this is what meditation has helped me with, is, and again, like I apologize because I know people love the positive and all that, but I do think a better way to be is neutral thinking. Neutral thinking is a term going around a lot right now. And it was actually kind of coined or made popular by Russell Wilson's. He hires a full-time mental performance coach. And it's about always coming back to neutral, never getting extremely high, never getting extremely low, and really just trying to see things for what they actually are. Because we have all these cognitive biases that help distract us from actual reality, and too much positivity can really skew it upwards. Like, oh, I'm going to make $100 million, and you might get lost of the actual tactical, like, okay, this is where I'm at here today, and this is what I need to do. And just like Russell, after throwing an interception and losing the Super Bowl, it's really easy to think your world's ending. But like, the reality is there's another season next year. You might have a 15-year long career. And what do you need to do to get ready for work the next day? And that really ties to like a fundamental stoic mentality, stoicism, which is really something I kind of spend enough time on. And it's being able to dissociate from a lot of these emotions that create that I, or create that, it's the ego is the whole idea. So that's kind of how I approach things. And it's a good book. It's called Whatever It Takes. It's like Trevor Moawad. And his dad was actually, it's funny, a self-help guy. So it was all about the positivity, this, that, and all that. but he basically kind of just came up with this idea of more neutral thinking, which really, I think it's more grounding. I think it fundamentally enables a greater chance of success.
That's a good way to look at it. So what you're saying essentially is that if you have too much positivity, and then you don't accomplish what you thought you will, you would be kind of taken back or depressed because of it. Is that kind of how you see it?
More or less, yeah. It can do that on like a personality side of things, right? It can make you very, because if you set a desire, just fundamentally, it's really just a contract to be unhappy with yourself until you get there, right? Like just fundamentally. So if you make $10 million, maybe that was the goal and you're happy. But then if you have $10 million now and you set the goal of $100 million, you are going to be unhappy until you get to $100 million. Desire is just a contract to be unhappy with yourself until you get somewhere you want to go. And then there's the arrival fallacy, which is like, you think you'll be happy when you get there, and then eventually that wears off. Oh, I just want a new car. I just want this Rolls Royce, Phantom. And then I get it. And then I'm happy for like a month. And then it just levels back off. It's just human nature. It's how it works. So yes, on that front, I think too much positivity or it can skew things. But just from a fundamental decision-making standpoint on a day-to-day, business approach, there's this thing called the sunk cost fallacy. And a lot of investors fall victim to this. And it's like, you invested a stock at $100, or you put, here's a good example. You put 50 grand into your manufacturer's business or something like that. And, COVID hits, the business gets wiped in half. Now you need to look at that as, you're 25 grand, you're down your 50 grand. The company needs more money to keep going. And you have to make a decision. Should you reinvest or should you let it die and lose your 50 grand? And maybe the fundamentals of that business are really jacked up, right? Like maybe they make no sense, but you don't want to lose your 50 grand. So you throw another 50 at it and you prolong the death another year. And then in a year, you're hit with the same side of that. And then you have to make another decision. Well, now they need 100 grand to stay in business. And so again, right, like that's the sunk cost fallacy. Whereas if you just cut your loss in the beginning and you let that 50 grand burn, sure, it sucks, but then you didn't reinvest another 200 grand. And I say that because, as a seller just starting out, you have a good idea and you're really excited about it, but you always need to look at it objectively. Because if you have maybe it's just a total miss, right? Maybe you did a keto product, and by the time you get that keto product to market, everyone's eating high carb again, right? And you're spending all this money, you're spending advertising, but nobody wants keto anymore. So do you keep doubling down, or do you say, you know what, maybe this lost, maybe it's time to go start a new business with a high carb food? So that's just my example. Does that make sense? And
Absolutely. And I love that you actually give an example from, Amazon, because I see a lot of sellers not being able to let go of their products, whether they invested 5,000 or 10,000. I feel like, sometimes they do get too attached, and one, they probably don't want to recognize that, they made a mistake. Maybe they did bring a product that's oversaturated. And I can see how a lot of them.
We've done that, like totally. We have. And then we kept throwing efforts at it. And now here we are, and we burnt, we should have killed it early. So, and that's why I say that, right? Like I by no means follow this to a T, but I think it's a good way to think about things rather than ruthless positivity. I think you need to be like ruthlessly committed, but at the same time, be able to step back and see things for what they really are. I think being able to see things for what they really are is super important.
I agree with that. I tend to be more on the positive side. It has really helped me throughout my life, but I know my limits. Like, I'm not an extreme. I don't say, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'll create $100 million out of thin air. Even though I am positive, I know I can do it if I want to, but I also know to take the steps, and actually if something does happen, I take responsibility for it. So I'm not like, I know there are like extreme positivists out there. They just say, I want $100 million. They go to sleep and they just wait for it to happen, and it doesn't happen. And then they fall on the other side where they're like super depressed because the positivity didn't work. So I can see definitely where you're coming from with that.
You're positive but not blinded by it, and that's how I am. Like or you try not to be blinded by it, right? Especially, it's even harder when things start going really well. You start feeling like invincible, and then Amazon will come around and knock you on your butt.
I love that you gave that example, because there's so many people out there. It's just so hard for them to just cut that product, cut their losses, because they think, okay, maybe spring is coming and it will be better, and then they keep funding money, and then they'll eventually just quit Amazon completely. I've seen it quite a few times, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like, if it's time for a product to go, it's time for it to go. And just like you said, even with a keto product that's so popular right now, maybe tomorrow is not going to be popular anymore. So just because it has been and it has produced major results for other people, doesn't mean that you have to hold on so tight to really anything. And especially with Amazon, where everything is ever changing, I think it's good to keep an open mind of any possibilities and know when to let go. And I think that goes for everything in our life, not just selling products, relationships as well, and everything else. So I think that's a great point that you brought up.
No, and that example came from like keto diet pills was like the thing, and we looked at that so many different ways and just could never pull the trigger because it was very fatty. And sure enough, the search volume, although not non-existent, has definitely declined. So yeah, I'm sure there's someone out there still trying to bang their head against the wall with keto diet pills when it hasn't been a winning formula.
One question, since we're still on this subject, like where do you get your motivation? Like, what drives you? Because you seem like you're, like you said, in that neutral place. You must have somewhere where you get that like inspiration and motivation, and like, yes, I'm gonna go get this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might be a personality type. Like if I commit to something, I got to put it all there, right? Like I don't want to feel like I shortchanged myself. I don't want to feel like I shortchanged my family, and I never want to feel like I left opportunities on the board, right? Like if an opportunity exists, I want to maximize it, and somehow that intrinsic motivation is just manifested. So I don't have like a concrete formula. Like I don't, the answer is not like I sit around and watch YouTube videos and get hyped up or whatever. It's just very much part of my nature, I guess.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people sit around and watch your videos and they get hyped up. I saw some of the comments there. So that's good, knowing that you can motivate other people. I mean, I see some of your workout videos and I just feel really out of shape when I see them. And I think, I go to the gym quite a lot.
No, but you know what? So for anyone who has watched those videos and feels inspired, like inspiration and motivation, they don't go that far. I mean, they just don't. What does go really far is discipline over the long run, because there's days with genius in the building parts of it, you don't feel particularly motivated, especially when things aren't going well, right? And you're not going to feel like hyped up for a year or two. So it's on those days where you don't have it. Do you have the discipline to still do the things you need to do and still put the hours in? So again, I know sometimes I go against kind of like what the answers people want to hear, right? But I do think that's more meaningful. Discipline over motivation 10 times out of 10. And I can tie to the workout, right? Like it's like you might not have the motivation to go kill it at the gym every day. You might not have the best workout, but do you have the discipline to keep going? Do you have the discipline to avoid sugar? Do you have it's a discipline thing for sure. And I think, because you think about it too, on that whole idea earlier I mentioned of just like what makes people successful. And a lot of the time it's a break. You catch a lucky break, you met someone, you did something, but what gives you the highest probability of being successful is consistent discipline. So you don't miss an opportunity. Preparation meets opportunity. That's where you like realize success.
So you feel like this is the formula to success, discipline? if you were to pick one?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just probabilistically speaking, right? Like anyone's major event in their life had some element of randomness, and that randomness always coincided with them being prepared. And how do you be prepared? Discipline. You have to be disciplined. You have to be awake and ready to go on the days that opportunity might knock. And that's everybody, right? You think of the odds, like people don't like the randomness and luck answer, but you look at like the probability of what it means to be a billionaire. Like a lot of these guys aren't even like especially out of their mind brilliant. They're just not like the relatively normal IQ scores or whatever, but they fell into the right place at the right time, but they were ready, right? Like they were absolutely ready. So yeah. I
Discipline.
know it's not a fun answer. Everyone likes to
No,
think there's
it's
like a
really
winning.
good because people look up to successful people and they want to know what makes them who they are. So I think you being so honest and open about this will make people really rethink, because a lot of people do think, you're just lucky. You were just,
I am.
you're just meant to be successful. And I see that a lot, and people forget that there's so much work and, like you said, discipline behind becoming successful. Like you having all these products, it wasn't just pure luck. Like you said, your latest product, it took how long? A year, right? To produce. So that was no luck. It was you getting up every single morning and working on that product.
For sure. Yes. But again, like I just tie back to like fundamentally, if I didn't start consulting for if Hit Supplements didn't pick up the phone and let me get their brand on Amazon, I might be like personal training right now, or something, just a totally different career path. So I haven't but then to your point, when I did see that opportunity, I was just like, this is everything. And I'm going to spend 100 hours in front of a computer screen making the most of it, because opportunity doesn't come around that much, right? Like it just doesn't. And that's why I encourage people with Amazon. I was like, this is a really golden opportunity. You can create the brand of your dreams, whatever it is you have in your head. And there's a vehicle for getting it out with minimal capital startup. Like it's incredible. It's amazing. We're all born in this time with quite a bit more opportunity than probably others have had historically.
I agree. I mean, I have sellers that are from all over the world. I come from Romania, and I actually moved to US because I wanted more opportunities. If I were to live there now, I would have this opportunity of selling on Amazon. I actually have very, very successful Romanian sellers, and again, all over the world,
Yeah.
Europe and Africa and wherever. And I think it's really fantastic, and more people should definitely take advantage of this. Again, it doesn't come easy, and Amazon has made it harder, but again, that hard work and discipline comes in, and you can definitely achieve something on Amazon. I want to ask you one thing, that this is more like a personal question. What is like one book or movie that you watched, or a book that you read, that really changed the way you see things? Or have you even had that in your life?
Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And then the follow-up is Antifragile. And the basic premise, I actually found it on Jeff Bezos has a list of like 7 most influential books. And that's one of them, Black Swan. And basically it's just this idea that history and everything has really been shaped by massive random events that nobody saw coming, like period. And it's kind of indisputable logic. Like and then what we do as humans is we go back and we're really good at creating narratives. So we're narrative machines. We tell a story of like, oh yeah, like the world's the way it is because World War II, and the Americans won and capitalism rang free and blah, blah, blah. But at the time, nobody saw Hitler's rise coming. Nobody saw the world getting sucked into World War II. Just like nobody saw the development of the internet, right? That came out of nowhere. Like I asked my dad, when you were a little boy, did you ever think you'd be able to pick up a device in your hand and press one button and get a product at your house in the same day? No, the answer is absolutely not. And like that whole idea is that randomness shapes almost everything. And it's really uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable idea because humans don't do well with uncertainty, right? We really don't like uncertainty. So we fragilize everything and try to make it certain. And then boom, huge random event comes, coronavirus, it shakes the foundation of the world. And how are you prepared for it? So Black Swan breaks down that just that thought, that school of thought, which I think is very important for everyone to understand, because Amazon applies it to their world, because the antidote to that is being anti-fragile. And you can't predict uncertainty. Like, it's, by definition, it's not something you can predict, but you can make yourself be anti-fragile. And anti-fragile just means you get better from uncertainty. You get better from volatility. You get better from shock. And you can create your organization in such a manner. And that's great for Amazon sellers, right? Like, you want to be adaptive. You want to be responsive. And, I know Bezos has applied this to Amazon. Who is the biggest global winner of the pandemic?
Yeah.
Amazon, like by far, right? Their stock is just going like this. And so it's an interesting way to view the world. And it's a hard way to view the world, because we want routine, we want certainty. But in actuality, the universe doesn't really operate that way. So we can turn a blind eye to it, and, or we can really craft ourselves to be anti-fragile and respond well to volatility.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to order them today, and I'll get to read them. I always love to know what other books are there that I haven't heard about. So this is really good. Rob, it's been such a pleasure. Do you want to tell people like how they can reach you, or where they can see your videos or your cool activities?
Yeah. Really, Instagram is probably the place I'm most active. I really need to get on TikTok, but I just haven't done it yet. So Instagram, I love talking, strategies, launch ideas. I'm a pretty open book too. I think that's how you build relationships and connect with people. So at the Genius CEO is my Instagram handle. So if anyone wants to reach out and talk shop, always available.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I feel like we could probably talk for 10 more hours on different subjects, but I think for today, this is perfect. And I know you are so busy. So in the name of everyone, thank you for being here with us today. I think your views on business and everything, it's like a fresh breath of air, because a lot of us, we look forward to talking to people like yourself. We want to know what makes it work, what makes you work. So thank you for giving us the time today, and we hope to hear from you again, maybe here at a later time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, let's definitely do it again.
All right, bye, Rob. Take care.
Have a good one. Thank you.